Imagine a man walking alone through the crowded streets of a bustling city. People rush past him, immersed in their daily lives, chasing careers, relationships, approval, and fleeting pleasures. Yet this man moves differently. His face reflects no concern for others' opinions. He carries no need for validation, no thirst for admiration. He needs no one. And precisely because of this, society watches him with unease. The modern world is built on intricate webs of dependence. Social structures, institutions, and even personal relationships thrive on mutual need. We exchange approval, status, and comfort like currency. To belong, we learn to conform, to seek validation, and to play by the rules written not by ourselves, but by the collective. From childhood, we are conditioned to crave acceptance and to fear isolation. But every so often, there emerges an anomaly. The man who does not play the game. The man who does not seek applause. The man who stands alone, complete within himself. His existence becomes an unsettling mirror, reflecting everything society hopes to suppress. The terrifying possibility that true freedom lies not in belonging, but in detachment. Throughout history, such individuals have both fascinated and threatened the world around them. They have been called dangerous, radical, even heretical, not because they sought to harm others, but because their very independence exposed the fragility of the collective mind. They are immune to the pressures that control the masses. And when someone cannot be controlled, they unsettle the order that sustains society. What makes this kind of person so powerful? Why does society instinctively fear those who need no one? To answer these questions, we turn to two of history's most profound thinkers, Friedrich Nietzsche and Marcus Aurelius. Though separated by centuries, both men explored the art of self-mastery, personal sovereignty, and the unsettling consequences of true independence. Nietzsche, the fierce iconoclast of the 19th century, introduced the world to the concept of the Übermensch, the overman, who transcends societal norms to create his own values. For Nietzsche, the man who needs no one is the one who has conquered himself, who has torn down the illusions of morality designed to keep men weak, and who stands alone as a creative force beyond good and evil. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor of Rome, offers a different but equally powerful vision. In his quiet meditations, Marcus teaches that true freedom is found not in mastering others, but in mastering oneself. The Stoic man accepts that he cannot control the world, only his own mind. He detaches from external desires and finds peace within, rendering himself unshakable no matter the turmoil around him. Both Nietzsche and Marcus Aurelius reveal unsettling truths about human nature and the structures we have built around us. A man who needs no one is dangerous not because he wishes harm, but because he is beyond manipulation. He does not need approval. He does not fear rejection. He cannot be bribed with pleasure or threatened with pain. He lives by his own code, and that makes him profoundly powerful and deeply unsettling to the masses who depend on the comfort of conformity. In this video, we will explore why such a man poses the greatest threat to the collective mind. We will dive into Nietzsche's vision of the overman and Marcus Aurelius's Stoic ideal, examining how their insights remain disturbingly relevant in our modern world. Through their wisdom, we will uncover why independence, true, radical independence, shakes the very foundations of society. The core problem: society and dependence. Human beings are, by design, social creatures. From the earliest days of tribes and clans to the towering metropolises of today, we have built intricate systems rooted in interdependence. Every institution, governments, religions, corporations, families, relies on a fundamental truth: people need one another. This need fosters cooperation, creates stability, and allows civilizations to flourish. But hidden within this structure is a paradox. The very dependence that sustains order also creates vulnerability. The man who does not need anyone, who stands apart from the mechanisms of mutual need, exposes this vulnerability. He becomes a mirror that reflects society's quiet fear that the entire system is fragile, held together not by absolute truth but by collective agreement. From the moment we are born, dependence is ingrained in us. As children, we rely on our parents for survival. on teachers for knowledge, and on peers for social development. This pattern continues into adulthood: dependence on employers for income, on partners for emotional fulfillment, on governments for security, on institutions for identity. To question this web is to question the very framework that most people accept as reality. Society enforces these dependencies subtly but powerfully. Approval becomes currency. Praise and validation are offered to those who conform. Rejection and ostracization await those who deviate. This system encourages compliance not through overt force, but through psychological incentives. It teaches that belonging is safety and isolation is death. The need for validation runs deep in the human psyche. Evolutionarily, those who were cast out of the tribe faced physical danger and death. Over time, this biological imperative transformed into a psychological dependency on acceptance. Social approval became as vital to emotional survival as food and shelter were to physical survival. This is why modern individuals often fear judgment, criticism, or being seen as different, not because these things are inherently harmful, but because they trigger primal anxieties wired into our very being. In modern society, dependence has taken on new, more sophisticated forms. Social media, for instance, amplifies the need for validation to an unprecedented degree. The number of likes, followers, and comments serve as digital tokens of approval, reinforcing the cycle of dependence. Algorithms are designed to feed this craving, keeping individuals engaged by manipulating their need for affirmation. Economic structures also reinforce dependence. The promise of stable employment, benefits, and career advancement keeps millions locked into systems that require conformity. Even personal identities become intertwined with careers, social circles, and institutions, making true independence feel not only difficult but terrifying. But what happens when someone detaches from this cycle? What happens when an individual no longer requires validation, no longer fears rejection, and no longer seeks comfort in conformity? To society, such a person represents a threat, not because he is violent or rebellious, but because he exposes the uncomfortable truth that dependence is often voluntary. He reveals that much of what binds people is not necessity but choice, a choice most are too afraid to confront. The man who needs no one lives by his own values, not those handed down by the collective. He does not seek approval, so he cannot be bribed with praise. He does not fear isolation, so he cannot be coerced with threats of rejection. He does not crave wealth or status, so he is immune to the seductions that govern most lives. This independence challenges the psychological mechanisms that sustain social order. If more people were to realize that dependence is optional, the entire structure could begin to unravel. Those in power, whether political, religious, or cultural, rely on the masses' need for guidance, validation, and reassurance. When that need evaporates, so does their control. Yet it is crucial to understand that society is not inherently malicious for fostering dependence. In many ways, interdependence is what allows for cooperation, shared progress, and mutual support. The danger lies not in the existence of these systems, but in the unexamined submission to them. When individuals surrender their autonomy without reflection, they become passive participants in a machine that governs their choices, desires, and identities. The man who needs no one stands outside this machine. His independence serves as both a beacon and a warning. To some, he represents the pinnacle of personal freedom, an embodiment of self-mastery and strength. To others, he is a destabilizing force that threatens the delicate balance of social cohesion. As we move forward, we will explore how Nietzsche's vision of the Overman and Marcus Aurelius's Stoic wisdom offer two powerful paths to this kind of independence, and why both remain deeply unsettling to the world around them. Nietzsche, the Overman and Transcendence. Friedrich Nietzsche was not merely a philosopher, he was a radical challenger to the very foundations of Western thought. Where others sought comfort in religion, morality, and tradition, Nietzsche saw these constructs as cages, elaborate systems designed to pacify the masses and suppress true greatness. At the heart of his philosophy lies one of his most provocative concepts, the Übermensch, the Overman or Superman. But to understand the Overman, we must first confront Nietzsche's brutal diagnosis of human society. He saw the majority of people, what he termed the herd, as driven by weakness, fear, and a desperate need for belonging. This herd mentality favors safety over strength, conformity over creativity, and mediocrity over excellence. To preserve order, society elevates virtues like humility, obedience, and self-denial, not because they lead to human flourishing, but because they keep individuals easily governed. In this context, the man who needs no one is a direct threat. He does not bow to the herd's values. He refuses to subordinate his will to the collective. He creates his own meaning and moral code. Nietzsche saw this type of individual as the next evolutionary leap for humanity, not in the biological sense, but in the spiritual and existential sense. The Overman is not concerned with approval, recognition, or acceptance. His worth is not measured by external validation, but by his own creative power. He transcends conventional morality, which Nietzsche derisively called slave morality, a system of values created by the weak to subdue the strong. Instead, the Overman embodies master morality, rooted in strength, will, and the courage to affirm life on his own terms. Consider the psychological power of such independence. The Overman is immune to shame, guilt, and fear, emotions society often weaponizes to enforce conformity. When a man no longer fears judgment, when he no longer feels the need to justify himself to others, he becomes untouchable. The collective loses its grip on him because its weapons, ostracism, criticism, rejection, are rendered useless. Nietzsche's vision of the Overman was not a license for cruelty or domination, as some misinterpret. Rather, it was a call to personal sovereignty, to rise above the petty concerns of the masses, and to courageously face existence without illusions. Life, to Nietzsche, was not something to endure or escape, but to embrace fully, with all its chaos and suffering. The Overman says yes to life, affirming even its harshest realities with strength and dignity. This existential courage is what separates the Overman from the average man. Most people seek to numb their anxieties through distractions. Religion offers salvation, society offers approval, and materialism offers comfort. But these are temporary anesthetics. The Overman rejects these crutches. He accepts that life has no inherent meaning, and in that void, he creates his own purpose. Nietzsche famously declared, "God is dead." This was not a celebration of atheism, but an acknowledgement that the old sources of meaning, religion, tradition, external authority, no longer held sway in the modern world. The death of God leaves a vacuum, and most are terrified by it. But the Overman steps into that void as a creator of values. He is his own lawgiver. Such radical independence unsettles the herd because it exposes the uncomfortable truth that most people outsource their values to others. Their beliefs, their goals, even their sense of identity are often inherited or absorbed from the collective. The Overman shines a blinding light on this borrowed existence. He dares others to confront the terrifying freedom of true self-authorship. This is why society instinctively resists those who embody Nietzsche's ideal. The man who needs no one cannot be manipulated by shame or seduced by rewards. He does not seek permission to exist as he is. His very presence challenges the legitimacy of the systems that govern others' lives. Nietzsche also warned of the alternative path when the masses refused to confront this freedom. He foresaw the rise of the last man, the antithesis of the Overman. The last man seeks only comfort, safety, and shallow pleasures. He avoids risk, creativity, and responsibility. He is content to be cared for, entertained, and pacified, sacrificing freedom for comfort. Modern society in many ways reflects this danger. People numbed by consumption, addicted to distraction, and terrified of stepping outside the herd. The Overman, by contrast, accepts solitude as the price of sovereignty. He may walk alone, but he walks freely. His solitude is not loneliness, but liberation. As Nietzsche wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "You must be ready to burn yourself in your own flame. How could you rise anew if you have not first become ashes?" Transformation requires destruction, the destruction of inherited beliefs, dependencies, and illusions. The overman embraces this process, burning away what is false to reveal the authentic self underneath. Importantly, Nietzsche's overman is not a final destination, but an ongoing becoming. The overman is always in the process of overcoming, of transcending limitations, reinventing himself, and confronting existence with fresh eyes. This continual self-overcoming demands incredible discipline, courage, and honesty. For the average person, this path is deeply unsettling. It requires letting go of the comforting lies society offers, that happiness lies in external success, that morality is fixed, that safety is the highest good. The overman dismantles these illusions and takes full responsibility for his own existence. In the eyes of society, such a man is dangerous precisely because he cannot be controlled. He does not need the system. He cannot be bribed with comfort or silenced with fear. His independence is a living indictment of the herd's dependency. Yet, Nietzsche's vision is not meant for everyone. It is a calling for the rare few willing to face existence without a safety net. For most, dependence offers security. But for those who hear the call of the overman, true life begins only when dependence ends. As we turn to Marcus Aurelius, we will see a different, yet equally profound path to independence. While Nietzsche urges us to transcend and create, Marcus offers a quieter mastery. To find freedom not by overpowering life, but by mastering one's own mind. Marcus Aurelius, Stoic and Inner Freedom. While Nietzsche's vision of the overman confronts the world head-on with fierce will and creation, Marcus Aurelius offers a quieter, subtler form of mastery, one that turns inward. As the Roman emperor, and one of Stoicism's most enduring voices, Marcus Aurelius faced immense external pressures, wars, political intrigue, personal losses. Yet, within this storm, he cultivated an unshakable calm, a serenity that stemmed not from the absence of chaos, but from mastery over himself. For Marcus, the essence of freedom lies not in controlling the world, but in mastering one's own perceptions, desires, and judgments. This inner sovereignty makes the Stoic man remarkably independent. He may live within society, fulfill his duties, and interact with others, but emotionally and mentally, he stands apart. His peace is not contingent on the opinions or actions of others. In his private journal, later known as Meditations, Marcus writes, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This simple yet profound insight cuts to the heart of Stoicism. The world is unpredictable. People are unreliable. Circumstances change constantly. To base one's happiness on external conditions is to submit oneself to endless vulnerability. But the Stoic refuses this dependence. He recognizes that while he cannot control events, he can control how he responds to them. This philosophy creates a man who needs no one, not because he rejects others or isolates himself physically, but because his well-being does not depend on their approval, behavior, or recognition. His emotional stability is self-generated. Imagine the power of such a mindset in today's world, where people are often enslaved by the opinions of others. Social media amplifies this dependency, creating cycles of comparison, validation, and self-doubt. The Stoic stands immune. He understands that external praise and criticism are both empty if they do not align with his own inner compass. He is governed by reason, not emotion. This independence terrifies society for a simple reason. People who cannot be manipulated by praise or fear are incredibly difficult to control. The modern world thrives on attention economies, political polarization, and consumer anxieties. Marketing, media, and politics all function by stirring emotions: fear, envy, outrage, desire. The Stoic cuts through these manipulations like a blade through fog. His clarity comes from within. Marcus Aurelius continually reminded himself of the transient nature of life. Do not waste what remains of your life in speculating about others, unless with a view to some mutual benefit. In this detachment, Marcus was not advocating apathy, but focus. He saw that much of human suffering stems from wasted energy on things beyond our control. the actions of others, the judgments of society, the randomness of fortune. By narrowing his concern only to his own thoughts and actions, the Stoic becomes self-sufficient. This internal freedom also extends to material wealth and social status. Marcus Aurelius ruled one of the most powerful empires in history, yet his writings reflect a profound indifference to luxury and power. He understood that wealth can disappear, status can fade, and positions of authority are fleeting. To build one's identity upon such unstable foundations is to guarantee eventual suffering. Receive without pride, let go without attachment, he advised. The Stoic man's lack of attachment makes him resilient. Loss does not destroy him. Criticism does not shake him. Success does not inflate his ego. He remains centered, anchored in principles rather than circumstances. This emotional stability grants a level of independence that is rare and threatening to those who rely on the manipulation of emotions to maintain control. In many ways, Marcus Aurelius represents the perfected version of what modern society fears, a man who participates in the world but is not enslaved by it. He can be a leader, a father, a friend, but he does not derive his identity from these roles. He fulfills his duties with integrity, not with desperate attachment. His self-worth is internally generated. The danger such a person poses to societal structures lies in his incorruptibility. He cannot be bribed, flattered, or coerced. He obeys only reason and virtue, not the shifting tides of popular opinion. In a world that often demands conformity through emotional blackmail, appealing to people's fears, insecurities, and desires, the Stoic stands as an unmovable pillar. Yet, like Nietzsche's Übermensch, this independence comes at a cost. The Stoic path requires immense discipline. It demands constant self-awareness, brutal honesty, and the courage to face discomfort without seeking external comfort. Most people find such a path intimidating because it removes the common excuses we use to justify our emotional turmoil. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. This radical accountability is both liberating and terrifying. It strips away the comforting illusion that our suffering is caused by others or by fate. Instead, it places the responsibility entirely on ourselves. Unlike Nietzsche's Übermensch, who creates his own values in a godless void, Marcus Aurelius grounds his independence in alignment with nature and reason. The Stoic sees himself as part of a larger cosmic order. His task is not to invent meaning, but to live virtuously within the natural flow of life, accepting its impermanence with grace. Where Nietzsche emphasizes self-creation, Marcus emphasizes self-discipline. Where Nietzsche celebrates the individual's creative will, Marcus celebrates the individual's rational acceptance. Both paths lead to profound independence, but they take very different roads. Ultimately, Marcus Aurelius teaches us that the man who needs no one is not the one who withdraws from life, but the one who fully engages with life while remaining emotionally self-sufficient. His peace cannot be bought, and his mind cannot be swayed. He is both deeply engaged and profoundly free. As we now turn to examine where these two visions intersect, we begin to see why society instinctively fears such independent men, and why their existence challenges the very foundations of collective control. The intersection of Nietzsche and Marcus Aurelius. At first glance, Nietzsche and Marcus Aurelius may seem worlds apart. One is the fiery German iconoclast, challenging the very existence of morality, while the other is the calm Roman emperor, finding serenity in acceptance and reason. But beneath these stylistic differences lies a profound intersection, a shared foundation of radical self-mastery and dangerous independence. Both philosophers ultimately confront the same fundamental truth, that true freedom is found not in others, but within oneself. Nietzsche's Übermensch seeks to transcend inherited values, to stand above the herd and create his own moral framework. He is a solitary creator, forging meaning in a godless universe. Marcus Aurelius, while not concerned with the death of God, similarly teaches that external forces, fortune, fame, status, are unstable and beyond our control. Both men reject dependence on external validation. The core commonality lies in their shared disdain for the crowd, the masses governed by fear, desire, and conformity. Nietzsche scorns the herd mentality that chooses comfort over greatness, labeling them the last men. Marcus, though far more compassionate, warns against being swept away by the opinions and actions of others, reminding himself, "It is not the actions of others that trouble us, but our judgments about them." In both frameworks, the man who needs no one is rare, because most people avoid this responsibility. The majority seek security in collective thinking. They adopt popular beliefs, pursue socially accepted goals, and measure worth by external approval. Independence, in both Nietzsche's and Marcus's eyes, requires the courage to stand alone in one's judgment. But there is a crucial difference in how this independence is pursued. Nietzsche's path is one of transcendence. The Overman rises above the existing order and declares, "I will create my own values." He does not accept the world as it is, but seeks to overcome it through sheer will and creative power. This act of value creation is dangerous because it challenges every moral and cultural structure designed to keep individuals contained. Marcus Aurelius, on the other hand, finds peace by aligning with the order of nature. The Stoic does not seek to overthrow existing reality, but to harmonize with it. His independence is not fueled by creative defiance, but by disciplined acceptance. He says, "Live according to nature, and you will live well." In accepting that many things lie beyond his control, the Stoic paradoxically gains control over himself. Yet, in both cases, society feels threatened. The man who creates his own values, or the man who needs no external validation, disrupts the mechanisms of control. For leaders, marketers, and institutions that rely on influencing human behavior, independent individuals are deeply unsettling. You cannot sell status to someone who no longer desires it. You cannot manipulate with guilt someone who has transcended shame. You cannot govern by fear someone who embraces mortality with grace. Both Nietzsche and Marcus teach that dependence is largely self-imposed, a psychological prison that most never attempt to escape. The man who breaks free becomes immune to manipulation, and that immunity threatens the entire structure that depends on conformity. This is why, even in our modern world, both philosophies remain so relevant. The man who lives by Nietzsche's will to power, or by Marcus's Stoic discipline, stands apart in a society obsessed with popularity, distraction, and consumption. He serves as a walking contradiction to the culture's implicit message that your worth comes from others. It is important to note that neither path advocates isolation from society. The Overman may engage with others as a leader, artist, or visionary. The Stoic may serve as a ruler, parent, or citizen. What unites them is not withdrawal, but sovereignty. Their relationships are chosen, not needed. Their interactions are grounded in virtue or purpose, not emotional dependence. This form of independence is extremely rare and thus deeply unsettling to the collective psyche. It reveals the uncomfortable truth that most people are trapped not by external forces, but by their own unwillingness to face responsibility for their minds. Both Nietzsche and Marcus offer difficult but liberating visions of human potential. They demand courage, self-awareness, and a willingness to face life without crutches. And for this reason, the man who embodies either path becomes society's greatest threat, not because he wishes to destroy it, but because his very existence exposes its illusions. As we now move forward, we will examine why such individuals, who pose no physical threat, can still destabilize society, and what real dangers arise when these philosophies are misunderstood or taken to dangerous extremes. The real dangers of the man who needs no one. The man who needs no one is not dangerous because of violence, rebellion, or aggression. His threat is subtler and, in many ways, more profound. It lies in what he represents, a disruption of the collective psychological order. His very existence questions the foundations upon which society operates, and in doing so, he introduces both opportunity and peril. The first and most obvious danger is the destabilization of control. Societies function by creating shared narratives, moral codes, social norms, cultural expectations that bind individuals together. These structures create predictability and cohesion. When someone steps outside these narratives, they expose their constructed nature. If one person can live independently of societal approval, others may question whether the rules are truly necessary. This introduces uncertainty, and power structures fear uncertainty more than rebellion. Institutions, whether governmental, religious, or cultural, rely on people's emotional dependence. They control behavior through a careful balance of rewards and punishments, praise, shame, recognition, exclusion. The independent man cannot be swayed by these levers. His existence highlights that much of society's control is voluntary, upheld by people's own fears rather than absolute necessity. Once this realization spreads, the fabric of control begins to fray. But there is a second, deeper danger: misinterpretation and extremism. Nietzsche's Overman and Marcus Aurelius's Stoic ideal require immense discipline, self-awareness, and humility. Without these, attempts at independence can easily warp into narcissism, arrogance, or antisocial behavior. When misunderstood, Nietzsche's call for self-creation can devolve into nihilism or ruthless egoism, a belief that one is above all rules and obligations. Similarly, a shallow reading of Stoicism may lead to emotional repression or cold detachment, stripping life of compassion and meaningful connection. The true independence both philosophers describe is not isolation, but sovereignty. It does not reject others, but refuses to be enslaved by them. The man who twists these teachings to justify cruelty, manipulation, or moral indifference becomes genuinely dangerous, not only to society, but to himself. History offers countless examples of individuals who, in pursuit of radical independence, descended into authoritarianism or destructive self-worship. What begins as a quest for sovereignty can easily become a justification for domination if not tempered by virtue and self-reflection. Finally, there is the danger of widespread disengagement. If too many people embrace a distorted form of detachment, society risks fragmenting into isolated individuals, unwilling to cooperate, empathize, or contribute to the collective good. Human flourishing requires a delicate balance. Individuals must be strong and independent, but also capable of meaningful connection and cooperation. Both Nietzsche and Marcus understood this. True independence empowers the individual to engage with others from a place of strength, not need. It fosters authentic relationships, free from manipulation or desperation. The danger arises not from independence itself, but from losing sight of its purpose. To live virtuously and meaningfully, not simply to withdraw or dominate. In the end, the man who needs no one walks a narrow path. His freedom is earned, not given. His threat to society is real, not because he seeks to destroy it, but because he exposes its fragility. When misunderstood, this path leads to destruction. When understood, it leads to one of the highest forms of human existence. Practical lessons for the modern individual. The ideas of Nietzsche and Marcus Aurelius are not mere intellectual exercises confined to ancient texts or philosophical circles. Their teachings offer deeply practical guidance for those who seek to navigate the complexity of modern life with strength, clarity, and inner peace. In a world overwhelmed by noise, distraction, and dependency, their wisdom shows a path toward personal sovereignty, a freedom few dare to pursue. The first lesson is radical self-responsibility. Both Nietzsche and Marcus Aurelius emphasize that your life is your own. No one else can define your values, create your meaning, or manage your emotions. Modern society often tempts individuals to outsource these responsibilities to social media, to cultural trends, to political ideologies, to relationships. But true independence demands that you reclaim authorship of your own mind. This means questioning inherited beliefs. Ask yourself, why do I hold the values I do? Whose approval am I seeking? Are my goals truly my own? Nietzsche calls us to create values that reflect our unique nature rather than blindly accepting those handed down by the herd. Marcus urges us to align our actions with reason and virtue, regardless of public opinion. The second lesson is emotional sovereignty. The Stoic principle of controlling one's perceptions is immensely powerful in a world obsessed with external validation. You cannot control whether people praise or criticize you, whether fortune favors or betrays you. But you can control how you interpret these events. This inner control shields you from the emotional roller coaster that plagues so many today. Imagine the strength of facing rejection, failure, or loss, not with despair, but with calm acceptance. Marcus Aurelius continually reminded himself that loss is inevitable, that life is transient, and that peace lies in accepting what we cannot change. This mindset transforms adversity into growth and fear into resilience. The third lesson is creative courage. Nietzsche's Übermensch does not simply endure life, he actively shapes it. In a modern world filled with endless choices, many people drift, paralyzed by indecision or overwhelmed by options. The independent man takes responsibility for shaping his path. He is not afraid to break from convention, pursue unconventional dreams, or build a life that reflects his deepest convictions. This courage requires embracing solitude. Both Nietzsche and Marcus understood that periods of solitude are essential for self-discovery and inner clarity. In a hyper-connected world, taking intentional space away from the noise to think, reflect, and confront oneself honestly is an act of power. Solitude is not isolation, it is the workshop of self-mastery. The fourth lesson is balanced detachment. Independence does not mean cutting off all relationships or abandoning society. Both philosophers lived fully engaged lives, Marcus as emperor, Nietzsche as a writer and teacher. True independence allows for rich relationships based on choice, not need. It empowers individuals to give love, support, and service freely, without fear of losing themselves. This balanced detachment protects against both codependency and cold indifference. You can care for others deeply while remaining rooted in your own values. You can engage with society without being swallowed by its expectations. Finally, the fifth lesson is constant self-overcoming. For both Nietzsche and Marcus Aurelius, the journey of independence is never complete. Each day presents new challenges, temptations, and opportunities to grow. The man who needs no one remains vigilant, always refining his discipline, clarity, and virtue. In practical terms, this means daily reflection, honest self-assessment, and the willingness to confront one's weaknesses without self-deception. It means striving not for perfection, but for progress, always becoming stronger, wiser, and more centered. Ultimately, the man who needs no one is not a recluse or a tyrant. He is a free man, free from the chains of fear, approval, and dependency. His independence is not a rejection of others, but a profound respect for both himself and those he chooses to engage with. He embodies the highest form of personal responsibility, creating a life that is both powerful and peaceful. Throughout history, society has feared the man who needs no one, not because he seeks to destroy, but because his existence threatens the silent contracts that bind most people together. He is a mirror, reflecting back the uncomfortable truth that dependence is often self-chosen, that conformity is often the path of least resistance, and that freedom, true, radical freedom, is terrifying. Nietzsche's Übermensch dares to create meaning in a meaningless world, forging his own path beyond inherited morality. Marcus Aurelius, with quiet Stoic grace, shows that serenity lies not in changing the world, but in mastering oneself amidst its storms. Both offer radically different roads, yet both converge on the same destination, the unshakable center within. In today's world, saturated with noise, distraction, and the constant pressure to conform, these lessons are more vital than ever. To be independent is to reclaim authorship over your mind, to stand firm in your values, and to engage with life not as a victim of circumstance, but as its conscious architect. And so, I leave you with a question, one not easily answered, but one worth wrestling with. Are you truly free, or are you simply comfortable? The man who needs no one has confronted this question. The rest of us must decide whether we dare to do the same.